Greetings, friends. This is Michael Swain, Executive Director of Freedom of Religion South Africa, 4SA. Many of you will know by now that the Chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission, Mrs. Thoko Mkhwanazi-Xaluva, convened an urgent national press conference on the 19th of June 2025. She then took over 30 minutes to make multiple false and defamatory allegations against 4SA and me in particular, concluding with a visit to the Hillbrow police station, where she laid a criminal charge against me for crimen injuria. She made it crystal clear that she is looking to make an example of me, which could, if she succeeds, see me spending up to 5 years in prison. This is no small matter, so I have taken time before making this video to process and consider carefully how best to respond. Let me be clear. Laying this criminal charge against me is both vexatious and totally unfounded. It appears to be a personally motivated attack designed to intimidate and deter me, 4SA, and anyone else who might oppose the chair's agenda to push once again for state regulation of religion. It should also raise concerns about how the CRL might use its power if it achieves its objectives. That said, I want to reiterate that 4SA is not against any person or institution, including the chair or the CRL Rights Commission. On the contrary, 4SA supports all its legitimate and constitutional objectives. Our single focus is, and always has been, to uphold and protect religious freedom and the related rights that we are guaranteed by the South African Constitution. Now, I have dedicated the past 10 years of my life to this purpose, and I will continue, unwavering and undeterred, while I have breath in my body and whether I am in jail or walking as a free man. Let me also be clear that this has nothing whatsoever to do with Cheryl Zondi or the Cheryl Zondi Foundation. Neither I nor 4SA has ever alleged financial misconduct of any kind. Such claims are false and wholly without any factual basis. On the contrary, 4SA holds the work of the Cheryl Zondi Foundation and her efforts to support survivors of sexual abuse in the highest regard. In the article I wrote, when the acquittal verdict was announced in the Timothy Omatosa case back in April, I stated, and I quote, that our hearts and prayers go out to the survivors who took the brave step to come forward and testify, hoping for justice to be served, and who now feel disappointed and betrayed. I want to be very clear. 4SA has consistently and unequivocally condemned all forms of abuse, sexual or otherwise. The right to religious freedom is not, never has been, and never will be, a defense or an excuse for committing a crime. Victims must be supported and perpetrators held accountable to the full extent of the law. So let's now move on to the conflict of interest that lies at the heart of the CRL chair's accusations. These come from our references to a letter which was sent in 2019 by over 20 senior religious leaders representing around 12 million South Africans. This letter was addressed to President Ramaphosa, and it appealed to him not to reappoint the chair for another term of office. This letter highlighted several concerns, one of which that she simultaneously served as the CRL chairperson and also as deputy chair of the Cheryl Zondi Foundation. To give you some background, the CRL Rights Commission, which stands for the Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Rights Commission, is a Chapter 9 institution created to be independent and impartial and accountable only to Parliament. Thus, its chair must avoid bias, preferential treatment, and dual loyalties. Under the chair's leadership at the time, the CRL were pushing strongly for state regulation of religion, which was equally strongly opposed by a wide diversity of South Africa's faith communities. The conflict of interest concern arose because the Timothy Omatosa case was cited to justify the CRL's positions as one high-profile example of abuses by a religious leader. So, when her appointment as the deputy chair of the Cheryl Zondi Foundation was announced, it created the impression of an overlap of influence and interest because she was now taking what was clearly an advocacy-aligned position, not a neutral one. However, it must be stressed that at no point did we raise any concern or cast any suspicion on Cheryl Zondi or the commendable work of the Cheryl Zondi Foundation. Since being reappointed, the chair has continued promoting her proposals for state regulation of religion and the introduction of peer review mechanisms. 4SA agrees that action must be taken to combat abuse, but we are adamant that what is being proposed is simply not the solution. Instead, 4SA has proposed alternative approaches that ensure that justice is done without compromising South Africa's fundamental rights and freedoms. 4SA's consistent position and warning is that any form of legislation that leads to state regulation of religion is unconstitutional, unnecessary, unworkable, and unaffordable. It poses a most serious threat to the right to religious freedom. And we therefore affirm that Parliament was 100% correct when it rejected the CRL's prior proposals for such regulation back in 2018. It is disappointing that the Chair failed to seek clarity or engage with us before making her false and harmful accusations and allegations in a very public way. These developments should be of deep concern to all South Africans who ascribe to constitutional values, rights, and freedoms. 4SA reserves all our legal rights in this matter, and we are currently considering appropriate legal remedies. These may include a formal demand for retraction, as well as potentially amending our previous damages claim for defamation, which dates back to the CRL's unfounded attacks on 4SA during her previous tenure in 2018. In closing, this is a serious matter, and the stakes are very high, not just for me, but for every person who understands the vital importance of protecting and upholding our right to religious freedom. So please consider supporting us in the fight for faith and freedom. You can do this by visiting the 4SA website and making a donation. The 4SA website, by the way, is also the best place for more information and to keep up to date on this matter, or you can visit our Facebook page, Freedom of Religion SA. Thank you for your interest and your support, and may God bless you.